Hello guys, I'm Super Ron, welcome back to the channel, and this week we are back down the G unit with quite possibly the ultimate Mark 1 Golf. There is literally not one thing I would change about this. If you were building a Mark 1 show car, this would tick everything on your desired list. It's in with me today because we've got a couple of running issues and they've had trouble tuning it on the rolling road, so I'm going to go through step by step. But before that, let me take you for a little tour. So it started life as a 1987 Mark 1 Golf Clipper Cabriolet. And as you can see, there is not a lot of the original left. It's had this respray in this lovely burgundy colour, but if you actually get up close, this is a full candy metal flake respray and it looks insane. Don't know if the camera will pick it up well enough, but it is like a glitter ball. You can see it sparkling there in the light. But outside, this thing is blinding. Under the bonnet, we've got a 225 horsepower, 1.8 turbo. Not too much out of an ordinary now in these Mark 1 Golfs, but this is mated to a 6-speed gearbox. I have seen in the Ipswich catalogue, they do mounts and drive shaft conversions for a 6-speed in the Mark 1 Golf, but I've never actually seen one before, so this is pretty cool. It's got the hydraulic clutch and the cable gear shift conversion as well, but it's a 6-speed that makes this one pretty special. As you can see, every inch of the Clipper kit has been resprayed in that candy red, and it is faultless. And it's got the big deep dish split rim wheels that set it off as the perfect VW scene car. And as you might have seen inside, the interior has not gone untouched either. These are Audi TT seats that have been fully retrimmed in the modern tartan with the rear bench trimmed to match. These are super comfy and they've even retained the Audi TT heated seat buttons. There we've got the 6-speed gearbox knob. We've got a standard Mark 1 GTI dash with the super rare GTI clocks in there with the temperature gauge and the fuel gauge down in the bottom right hand corner instead of at the top. That's got the miles per gallon. It's also got electric power steering in here. And with the 6-speed box, somehow it's got an electronic speedo, which I'm keen to find out how they've done it. The candy red respray goes all the way into the door shuts. It's been a full bare body conversion, all the inside of the doors. Door cards are all retrimmed to match as well, with the electric window conversion. There is not one bit of this car that has gone untouched. This is a super local car to me, only literally a few miles away from my house. So he got in contact to ask if I could have a look and run through the basics. Since he's had it back from having the conversion done, it's never really run right. He's had it on a couple of rolling roads and they've had some problems with fueling. It's not been able to remap correctly. We just want to go through it and ultimately find out what it is. Because when the conversion was done, he was told it's got a BAM engine, but on the cylinder head, it does say APX, which is the earlier 225 brake. In 2001, they started doing the BAM engine code, also the same power, but it had a lot better control over the engine with a wideband lander sensor. I need to find out exactly what this is, because an APX should have bolt-on coil packs, and this has got push-on coil packs of the later BAM. So it could be just a case of it's had the cylinder head changed at some point in its life. Nearly all the 1.8 turbo heads are the same, so they're all interchangeable. So it could well be a BAM, it's just had a different cylinder head put on, and that's why it's still got the APX engine code on the top. However, there are a few little more telltale signs, because the APX didn't have VVT on startup, and the BAM did, and this cylinder head hasn't. Another way to tell whether it's an early or late car is to have a look at the sump, because the later ones had an oil level sensor, whereas the early ones didn't. But again, all these are things that could have been bolted off, bolted on over the years. The other thing, it's got an aftermarket boost controller plumbed in as well, which he thinks is causing boost problems on the rolling road. So we're going to go back to just the N75 valve, and then it'll be fully mappable from the ECU, not using a piggyback boost controller. So overall, as you can see, the engine bay is stunning. It's had all the color coded in the candy sparkle on all the boost pipes, on all the rocker cover, all to match the resprayed smooth bay. It's also had a wire tuck, so all the headlight wiring pops out from underneath. All the wiring looms are hidden at the back, but there is the APX engine code, but that should have bolt-on coils, so there's definitely been some mix match going along. There's the 6-speed gearbox down the bottom, which is massive. They're a lot bigger than the 5 speeds down there. And there's the Epitech mount. You can see there's all the starter motor wiring, and that all runs under the chassis leg, properly underneath and into the car. Here is the Greddy boost controller and the map valve, but that's plumbed in along with the M75 valve. So I think they're working against each other. It's got an aftermarket diverter valve. There's the non-VVT end. So we've got to see how it's got this loom working. Whether it's had a modern coil plug conversion and the loom's been changed. When it had fueling problems on the rolling road, they then upgraded the fueling system So it's got a swell pot in front, and if we can see down there, it's got a Bosch 44 equivalent. So everything's been done really nicely in the AN lines, including the pressure fittings that we use on our rails, all from Torx, exactly the same as what you've seen me do in my conversions, how we convert everything to AN. So that looks really, really nice. And just throughout this build, everything is just high quality branded stuff. We've got BC coilovers on it. We've got all the proper silicone hoses. We've got all the genuine sensors everywhere. We just need to go through things like this, because this is the fuel pressure regulator. This is the vacuum to it. So when it comes on boost, it puts more fuel in. As you can see all around the edge, that is cracking. So that is a boost leak there. Also, he mentioned the fans are a bit noisy, so I've got to see if they're loose. But even the fan surround is really nice. It's got a fully blanked off panel, so when the fans are running, it's sucking it purely through and not round the edge. It's got a nice big front mount intercooler on the front. Everything's got its brackets, everything's got its mounts. Looking around it, it looks a really, really tidy conversion. Not the usual ones I have to redo with wires hanging everywhere, with fuel pipes all crushed. This has been done really, really nice. I just want to go through it and find out what fuel pressure we're actually at, what injectors we're running, what boost we're running, what management we're running, and what engine code we're running. Last time it was on the rollers, it was massively overfueling, so I need to check what part numbers are on the injectors, to what flow rate they are, and what fuel pressure we're running at. But it could have been to do with the two boost controllers working against each other. So today is going to be a big research episode. So it's running a Vagtronics conversion loom, which means it's got an OBD port. So let's get the Vagcom plugged in, because knowledge is power, and this is where we get our knowledge. So I've just got my torch in, and now you can really see the metal flake in there. All the way over in the engine bay. The entire car is like a glitter ball. So from a distance, just looks like a nice maroon colour, but when that sun comes out, you are greeted with some magic. If I just have a little squeeze underneath, what I was talking about with the oil level sensor should go in here. But on early cars, they didn't have it. And as you can see, this one has not. There you can see the G60 brakes and the conversion drive shaft and that massive 6-speed box. These are huge. I'm surprised they even fit in there. It's even candy red on the front panel behind the bumper, even though you don't see it. Down there, we have got a nice big intercooler. As you can see, it's nearly as tall as the radiator. But unfortunately, because we've got a clipper bumper, that is nearly all covered, and it's only the top couple of fins that is actually working. There is a cutout in the Mk1 down here, so it will get some airflow, but with the bumper on, that is completely blocked. Underneath, there's no airflow to the cooler, which isn't ideal, but with a clipper, it's not really much you can do. What we have done previously is cut under here to get a bit of air, but I think there is a massive bumper beam in here. So without a lot of surgery, there's not a lot you can do. And also, it's nice to keep it looking nice and factory from the outside. So with a bit of light in here now, you can see those GTI clocks with the fuel and temperature gauge down there in the rev counter. And then you've got the miles per gallon gauge and the MFA in the middle, and this electronic speedo. But down here is the Vagtronic OBD port, so we'll plug that into the Vagcom and have a read. Let's turn the ignition on, pop out screen for the stereo. Oh, and there's also subs underneath each seat as well, which aren't working at the moment, so we'll get them working. There's the Gredi boost controller, so that's the thing we're going to disconnect, but I'll probably still leave it with a feed, so it'll work as a boost gauge. But we've got our ignition on, we've got communication with the ECU. Let's read it. So it's a 1.8 litre 5-valve turbo, and there is the ECU part number. So if we just double check that, whether it's been changed over to band management, and the part number 8L0906018M refers to an Audi TT 1.8 turbo engine control unit, yes, specifically for the APX engine. So let's read these fault codes, because the situation they're in at the moment is when they were trying to tune it, it was running super rich, it was black smoke out the back, it seemed like a dark side diesel, there's just fuel pouring out the back, everything was sooted up, so they flashed the ECU back to standard, but every now and again it does still drop into limp mode. So if we do fault code, so we've got 5 faults found. Boost pressure control valve N249, that's been removed. I can see the plugs just sitting in the bay. That's not needed, but it just hasn't been coded out. Power supply terminal 30, that just means it's had a flat battery. Mass airflow sensor, signal too high, intermittent. Engine torque monitor, control limit exceeded. Charge pressure, maximum limit exceeded. So this means it's over boosting to what the ECU thinks it's doing. And I think that's down to the Greedy boost controller trying to chuck a bit more in and surprising the ECU. So this one will put it in limp mode. So I'm pretty sure this is the one that puts it into limp mode because it's over boosting. And quite possibly these three could be related, because if it's putting more boost in than it knows, it needs more air coming in than it knows, and it'll be producing more torque than it knows. So I think these are what's putting it in limp mode because it is running more boost than it realizes. So if we clear all those, do you want to erase TDCs? Yes. So now we've got all fault codes removed. The other thing, I want to go into measuring blocks and see what we're reading, whether our coolant temperature is right. So coolant temperature is saying 14 degrees, which is correct. That's about what it is in here. If we find air temp, so there you go, coolant temperature is 14 degrees, air temp is 18 degrees. So it's actually about 18 degrees in here, but because it's been sitting overnight, coolant is just catching up. So it seems like both of these are working fine. We've got our battery voltage, and we can go through looking at every sensor on the vehicle. Throttle angle, so at the moment it's closed. If I put my foot on the throttle, there we go, we've got 100%. So that's working all the way from 0, fully closed, to 100% fully open. So that's not restricting things. We can look at our NOx sensors, all voltage is correct. Lambda control status, so at the moment we're not running. So lambda heating is not on, it's not ready and not active, because we're not running. And then when it is running, we can look at all our mixture settings, check everything's okay. So if we now start it up, it's alive. We've got our injection timing on idle. It should be between 1 and 4 milliseconds. We're at 2.8. We've got our airflow meter, which was showing a fault. So our specific at range should be between 2 and 4.5. We're a bit high here at the moment, but that's because we're above idle speed. So once the idle drops down, we'll check what this one is. To check the airflow meter is all happy. We've got decent power to the ECU, so at terminal 30, we've got 13.5 volt. Coolant temperature is now warming up. Air intake temperature is still the same, obviously, in the workshop. So I think this is an APX engine. They've just put modern coil packs on it and rewired it through. Not the end of the world. They do have the narrowband lambda sensor, which isn't great for tuning, but just on idle, it does run really sweet. So I think I'm going to do a compression test just to check that's all healthy. And also, while the boost pipe's off, I am just going to check the cam timing, because if you remember the old white caddy video, that was running poorly, and that was in fact a whole tooth out. So let's get some of these covers off and check it out. And following my work at Autoshack, you would have seen this before. As we have got such a stunning respray here, I've got myself some of the blue film. That's better, that just saves any scratches going onto the bodywork. And everyone always asks about this. This is just the protection film that painter and decorators put on the carpet to keep it tidy. But it works on cars perfectly, never leaves any residue, and just stops even your abrasive from your dirty clothes just making a mark. All the little touches. So I'm just going to get the inlet off, coil packs out, cam belt cover off, and then we can investigate. Whoosh, like so. So coil packs out, boost pipe all off. Something I did notice is the aftermarket recirc valve has screw-in ends, depending whether you want it to go to atmospheric or screw-in, and it's loose. So that would have been a direct air leak after the airflow meter, and a boost leak because it's on the high pressure side coming out of here. So I'll get that sealed up as well. Just something else that could be contributing to our problem. That's plugs all out as well. Cam belt cover off so I can check the timing. Also check the injectors and check that part number, and they are 375 cc's from a BAM, which I think is the same on the APX anyway. That's at 3 bar, so I'll check what fuel pressure regulator it's got on it. I've got this cool little AN inline fuel pressure gauge, so we can put that in the AN. Then we can see what fuel pressure we're actually running, because sometimes these high pressure pumps can push through the fuel pressure regulator and then give a higher reading than what you're thinking. So let's just get this up to top dead center and double check our marks are on. Got all the plugs out. It's got Bosch twin tips in, which aren't ideal for the tuning. So it'll be good to get rid of them anyway. You can see that one is completely fouled up. So I don't know if there's been a problem in there or whether that's just from the mapping. But if you look at the difference between the two, see number 4 wasn't doing a lot. But we've got brand new NGKRs to go in, which will be much better. Just I'm a little bit worried about that spark plug and how it is. So let's turn this round, get it top dead center, check that, and then we'll do a compression test. Got the bottom mark coming round now. There. But yeah, there's our mark there. Lines up perfectly with there. So top and bottom, hard to see, but just through there, you can just about, you can see the dot there, we're lined up. we're lined up here, so I'd say we're good there. So timing is spot on, but you have got to start from the beginning. One thing that's not ideal though is, I don't know if you can tell, but the cam belt is right off the pulley there. Got the Mark 1 conversion tensioner, which is of a Mark 2 KR. But if you look at all the pulleys there, you've got the water pump down the bottom on the right there. You can see there's a clean stripe where it's not been running central on the pulley. Same with this cam one, it's sitting right off the edge. And it has got the Mark 2 KR tensioner, which is what you use for the conversion for a Mark 1 20 valve. I'm wondering whether they haven't put the spacer in the back, which would move the belt out. It doesn't look like it's been rubbing on anything, and it's running central on the tensioner itself. It's just the rest of the 1.8 turbo stuff. The belt is running right on the inside, and it is on the crank pulley right down the bottom. So ideally, that is something else that needs changing. While I was under here turning the engine over, I had a look at the fuel system, and it's all using Torx stuff. It's got the Torx check valve, an 044 style pump. Everything looks great, but then I noticed we have got a bit of a fuel leak, and this is the exact same problem I had on the Caddy. I use this pump from Torx, I use this check valve from Torx, and size-wise it is the perfect replica of an 044 Bosch pump, except for the threads don't go quite as far in, which means the check valve bottom out when it goes in, because they're designed to have a banjo like that side, but Torx make this nice little check valve that directly fits in. But because it bottoms out, they actually leak. So what I'll do, I'll take that check valve off, sand down the first couple of threads of the Torx adapter, and then that will go in. I did email Torx and let them know of the problem, but obviously they haven't revised it just yet. But that's just something to note, the threads don't go quite as far in on the pump as a genuine 044. It's not leaking bad, but as you can see there, it is definitely seeping. Right, compressor tester in, injectors are all unplugged, so it's not going to squirt fuel. Test number 1. Ten pumps, we have got 220, cylinder 2, 210, 220, number 4, and this is the one with the funny spark plug. So hopefully that's just old news. No, 220. So all cylinders showing nice and healthy. So I'm more than happy that it's a healthy engine compression wise, so we can put it all back together. I'll put the new plugs in and then we'll carry on our investigations. Coils back in. They're not genuine coils, but they should still be fine. So the other thing we've got to do at the back, we've got a new Bosch lambda sensor to go in, and it is the narrowband one, only a 4-wire, but that just sits there at the back. So we'll swap that over, just in case that got it sooted up with all the messing around on the rolling road. And there's the lambda I took out at the front, so it's just a cheapy aftermarket one, and you can see the difference between a proper Bosch one that's got the shield around it, and this one, so that's not going to have been helping tuning. So we'll get the proper Bosch one in, and that should give some bit better readings. Not all parts are equal. And then here's that fitting on the blow-off valve. As you can see, it's loose. That's just on these aftermarket ones. If you haven't got an airflow meter, you can vent these to atmospheric, so it gives the, but as you've got the airflow meter, you need to keep it closed loop, so that's why it goes back in. So I'll put some thread sealer on that, because with that loose, that would have been leaking boost through there. Less than ideal. All PTFEs, I'll stick this back in. I will check the bottom as well, but it's not twisting, so that one seems okay. And all back on. And then before I put the inlet back on, I want to try and get my AN gauge in on here, just so we can read it, whether I leave it in there permanently or just to take readings today. So I might have to shuffle these hoses around a little bit to fit, but it's just an inline gauge that will give us a reading. And in, so I just took off the clamps, and there was plenty of hose just to move it along a little bit, so we could even put the clamps back on here and keep that as a permanent fixture. So I'll just put the ignition on now and see what it primes up to. So about 2.5 bar there. So that is reading. We've got no leaks, but that was just on cranking, so it was low voltage. So let's put all this back together and start it up. And all back together. So that side is all complete. Plugs are in, injectors are in, everything's plugged back in. So the last thing I want to get rid of is this Goretti boost controller. We've got our standard boost controller here, which gets its boost reference from the outlet of the turbo, boost reference down to here. Then this one should go down to the actuator, and then it gets its exhaust just back into the inlet flow. But what it does, instead of going to the actuator, it comes along here, goes into this Mac valve, which is controlled by the Goretti controller there, and then down to the actuator. So the ECU is controlling it here, but then it's got the piggyback boost controller there. So just to simplify it, we can control this via the ECU. So I'll put it back to standard. We've got our boost reference in, and this one will go to the actuator. And there's the Mac valve all disconnected, so it's just plumbed in as per Audi, and I've just double checked that the feed and the exhaust are the right way round, which is all correct. So now that goes round, and if I sneak you in the back, there is our actuator. So let's get this back on the floor, start it up. I'll read the codes. We're going to have a lot of codes because we've been turning it over without anything connected, and make a start from there. Back on the floor. Our fuel pressure is reading about 3.5 bar. We disconnect this vacuum. That is running 4 bar. So that's a 3 bar regulator, but it's actually running 4 bar. So we're back in. If we go on fault codes, all the injectors unplugged, clear them. Seems all happy. If we go back in measuring blocks, ooh. And just before it warms up too much, I just remembered the customer did supply a brand new, genuine coolant temperature sender, just in case that one was showing faulty and it was trying to adjust the fuel in according to a cold day. It appears the sensor is working well, but as we've got a brand new, genuine one, it's going to be better than the 20-year-old TT one. So it's just this plug here, and it's on a horseshoe. So I'll do a quick switcheroo, hopefully not making too much of a mess, and then we'll test these readings. So as I've left the cap on, we've actually got suction in the system, so it's not coming out. But I'm not going to push my luck too much longer. So let's get this new sensor in. And back in, check. So something I noticed before is when the coolant temperature was going up, it was a lot lower on the gauge. So when the coolant temperature on here reached just over 90 and the fans kicked in, the gauge was only at 1/4. So now we've got a genuine sensor in, maybe this gauge will read correct as well. So we're now sitting in all our specifications. Sitting at idle, engine load should be between 15 and 30%. We're at 24. Idle injection timing should be between 1 and 4 milliseconds, and we're at 2. That's bang on. Airflow through the airflow meter at idle should be between 2 and 4.5. So we're in specification there. Everything is looking good. Our temperature is now showing 84 degrees. And that is now lining up with the dash. Before, the dash was still on cold. So the ECU was reading correctly, but the dash wasn't. So that's another thing solved. So whizzing through all the measuring blocks in here, everything seems happy. So I think the next stage is going to be to take it for a test drive, log any faults, and then I think it's time to get it back on the rolling road, but keeping an eye on our fuel pressure, because those injectors are 375cc at 3 bar, but this pump is actually running 4 bar. But I have seen this before with the uprated pumps. The high power pumps can push through the standard regulator and it just can't keep up with getting rid. So the fans have just kicked in at 96 degrees, so that is spot on. That's what the fan switch should say. So no fault codes in here. So I think the next stage is going to be to take this for a test drive, log any fault. But one thing he did say was the fans are very noisy. And I can hear one rattling around, so I'll double check whether it's got something stuck in it. Oh, that's the problem. Let's have a look at this fan. Oh. Don't know if you can see that. The fan's loose. Let's do that. Now that's gone. Don't know if you can see in there. The fan's come loose. That'll be an easy fix. Oh yeah. That's missing the bolt, so that's just flapping around. Lucky it didn't cut through the radiator. So I'll get another screw to go in there, do the rest up. While I'm under here, I'll take this check valve off, take off a couple of threads, and then seal it back on again. You can see it's just dripping down there, and that'll be another tick off the list. The only thing with this though is because the swell pot is above the pump, as soon as I undo the pump, it's going to empty the whole swell pot out. So I'll get something to catch that and whip that off. Wasn't too bad. Managed to catch it all. And the fuel system's all back together. And just before I prime it up, I want to double check the readings we're getting on this gauge because it's showing overpressure in the rail. I've got this oil pressure gauge set, which has lots of different attachments. So if we find the right one, we'll be able to screw into this and just take us just to double check that we're not running a red herring here and we are getting overpressure. So I think this one will go in where that gauge goes, and then we can read it off the more accurate gauge. So let's get this connected up. And there's that screwed into the AN fitting, so I'll get this back on. And if that does match up, we can put this one back on to stay on there. And in, so let's start it up. Yeah, we are up, 4 bar there. And back on, and backing up, 4 bar. And another happy side effect of the blue film is the super satisfying removal. All as good as new. Just been round double checking all the Jubilee clips, everything is tight, all the airflow meters on nicely, all the coolant pipes are tight, fuel lines are all on. So I think it's time to take it for a little test drive. I'll clear all the codes, go for a drive, get it under a little bit of boost, and then we'll see if any codes come back. All right, off we go. Right, let's go out for a little test drive. Just want to run through all the gears, get it to come on boost, see what PSI of boost it is boosting at, just check we haven't got any fault codes. And sticking the camera up, I've just noticed this has also got a heated screen. Literally every time I move or look at something, it is a higher spec than I even expected. The other thing, I can't remember if I mentioned earlier, this has got a limited slip diff in that 6-speed box, so it pulls it nice and straight when it is on boost. The BG coilovers ride really nicely. It's not slammed on the road, so the wheel alignment is pretty good. See what we're boosting to. So it's holding 6 PSI of boost, which is quite low. But if it has been ramped right back, if he was trying to turn the boost down, but that other boost controller was keeping it up high, I think these 225 brake ones should be up more at about the 12 PSI. So there's no point putting too many miles on it now until it gets back on the rolling road and gets the boost and the fueling dialed back in, but it does drive really nice. I love the fact it's not on any sticky little rubber band tyres, it's got decent suspension, the electric power steering is really, really light. So let's take it back in and finish these final little bits. The other thing we've got to look at is the headlights. There's something a little bit weird going on. Put the side lights on.
Side lights work.
Put main lights on. That's dip beam, but when dip beam's on, these main beams
come on. And then that's main beam.
and they go off. So it's like these are wired into the dip beam. So something's definitely gone amiss. Where they've hidden these wiring looms and extended all the lighting loom, I think they've got something a little bit crossed over. So a little electrical puzzle.
And last of all, we need to look why these subwoofers aren't working. They've got them mounted under the seat, which is pretty cool, so you can really feel the bass, but both sides aren't working. They're run by a Pioneer amp in the boot. It's got a Pioneer head unit as well, so it's all top quality stuff, just the amps aren't working.
Also, here's where the battery's relocated in the boot, so that's why the bay looks so good. And also, you can see it's been resprayed red, even all in the boot. But look at the sparkles. Even on the inside of the boot, it's dirty, but you can see all the sparkle. So let's find out why these speakers aren't working. So I just hiked the heated seat out to reveal these base plates. They've had all the mounts put in for the Audi seats and they sit really nice. And then you've got this nice retrimmed enclosure with the sub in it. So when I put a speaker on these wires, which were in it, speaker actually works, which makes me think subs are dead. But he said they both packed up at the same time shortly after picking it up, which seems a bit strange. So I'm going to pop these out and test them on the bench. See, everything's just been made so nice. There's been a lot of hours put into this build. This is not one of those janky stick together jobs. All this has been really well thought out. So I got the speaker out, all seems okay. Couldn't find anything wrong, but as soon as I plugged the old SPL in, that kicked straight into life, so it must be the speakers are blown. He did say both speakers went near enough straight away, so I wonder if the amp settings were too high for it and it just blew them. But all the wiring, all the amps, all okay. And this one is kicking. So I'll look for some replacement speakers because it is a pretty cool spot to have under there. So looking at the spotlight anomaly, I've found out what's happened. Here's the headlight plug, and as standard, don't know if you can just see there, the white wire has two wires going in. One going to feed the headlight and another one coming out to this loom over here, which powers the light. For some reason, the white wire has been curled up and a red wire has been put in. Same on this side. The plug is there ready, but we've got a red and a black going in there and nothing linked in here. But when I've just opened it up down here, we can see someone's tied the red in. The white wire wasn't teed in for some reason, whether it's broken off or something's happened. So someone's teed in a new wire to go to this plug, but they've teed it into the yellow wire, not the white wire. So that is dip beam. So that's why every time the dip beam's on, the main beam centers come on. And every time we put the main beam on this side, the mains go out because they're connected to dip beam. So it's just going to be a case of swapping that wire over and connecting it to the white. So I think I'm going to wrap this episode up here for now. This has been more of a diagnostic episode, just going through all the basics, trying to work out what is actually wrong. So we've got a lot of answers of what is right. We know all the timing, the injector sizes, the engine codes. We worked all that out now. I think the main thing that is proving troublesome is this fuel pressure. The fact it's over a bar over the recommended what the injectors should be running at. It's just running too much fuel through. I'm not getting a clear lambda reading, it's massively over fueling. But the biggest problem is it varies. The fuel pressure isn't constant. So you map it at one stage, drive it down, the fuel pressure will build up even more, and it just puts everything out of whack. So until we can solve that, I don't think there's any point putting it back on the rollers. So in the next episode, that is what I'm gonna fix. I think this massive fuel pump, because it's so close to the rail, it's just overpowering the fuel pressure regulator, and it can't get rid of the fuel fast enough, so it's just building up pressure in the rail. I wouldn't say it's the wrong parts or not fit for purpose or anything like that, because I use this pump and these swirl pots and these lines on all of my conversions. I think what's happening here is, because the fuel pump is at the front, and there's only about that much fuel line between the high pressure pump straight into the rail, it's just accumulating in that. When I have the fuel pump at the back, I think 3 meters of fuel line gives that a little bit of a buffer so it can sort itself out by the time it gets to the rail. But because we are direct feed into the rail, it just can't keep up. So what I have got in my stash for bits from the Astra, I've got some old AN lines, I've got an Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator. So what I'm gonna do in the next episode is rig this up and see if we can get that fuel pressure down. And if we can, we'll go out and buy these bits for real for the engine bay and get this a really cool looking bay. But regardless of these running issues, I think you can agree this is one stunning build. I really do love this and I can't wait to get it working properly. So make sure you tune into the next episode where we'll get this running and then we can send it back to the rollers to get some real results. So until then, make sure you have fun.